Have thine own way, Lord, have thine own way. Thou art the potter, I am the clay. Mold me and make me after thy will, while I am waiting, yielded and still. Have thine own way, Lord, have thine own way. Search me and try me, Master, today. Whiter than snow, Lord, wash me just now, as in thy presence.
Welcome, everyone. This is an Arcola Bible Church podcast, and I'm your host, Mark Kalpskoff. That hymn was written in 1902 by Adelaide Pollard. She had been trying to save money to go and be a missionary in Africa. The whole plan fell through, and she was bitterly disappointed. And that resulted in her eventually penning that hymn. It's an easy thing to say to God, but much more difficult to let it happen. And that's our subject for today. Now, I realize there's been a pause in the podcast, and I confess they will probably be more sporadic across the summer. Here's our verse for the day.
Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light. Matthew 11:28 through 30.
Thank you, Ruth. Today I have Suresh Jesuraj with me. He's an elder at Arcola Bible Church, and Suresh is originally from India, as you can tell from his name. Today we're going to be talking about a lesson he learned when he first started out in the U.S. So, Suresh, tell us, how did you come to the United States?
Thanks, Mark. I'm really glad to talk to you today. I am from the southern part of India, from a state called Karnataka. So I was born and brought up in that part of the world. And in the year 2000 was when I came to United States of America to start my IT job career. So I landed in San Francisco. So that's where I started up.
Okay. And I'm sure it was all very strange to you when you first came here. How did it go in the first few years?
Well, I mean, the first few years was very exciting. Being in a new country, I had recently married back in India. My wife Beulah was still in India when I came to US. So I came here. My primary job initially was to get to know more about the lifestyle here, the culture here, how to talk to different customers, take interviews, and try to find a job. So initially, there were a couple of challenges, but God in His mercy helped me to find a job in the Bay Area at that time. And that's how I started my career. And initially, there were some hiccups because all the jobs I got were very short term. I got a 3-month project. I got a 6-month project. And as I was continuing like that, I walked into a place where they were interviewing in a big seminar. So that is where I was able to find a permanent job. And that company applied for my H1, and then I started off working in that company.
So it sounds like so far everything's going fairly well. So you've got your permanent job and you're settling in, becoming more used to it. So that doesn't sound too bad. I can identify with it a little bit. I actually came here with a job, so it wasn't quite so scary perhaps as yours was. But I do understand the whole business about visas and jobs in the States and how it affects your whole life. Okay, tell us a bit more. So you've been here for a little while, and then what happens?
My wife joined me here, and within a year or so, we had our first baby. Her name is Stacy. She was 3 months old. We bought a new car. We rented an apartment, and everything was really great. Used to attend a church in the community there, making friends. And then we were kind of very happy with the setting God had placed us, very comfortable. We were able to support our family back in India with whatever funds we were getting here. So, everything was going well, and it was almost like 2.5 to 3 years
Right.
into my US journey. But in the year, I would say, end of 2002 was when there were a few hiccups started to come across my way. And then the first one was related to my job, and the company which I was working was doing great. I loved my job, but one fine day, the company calls an all hands meeting, and then they announced in the meeting that the company is going to shut down, and all 350 employees would be let go in the next 1 month.
Oh,
So yeah, that was kind of a crash for us at that point.
oh wow. I've been to some of those meetings where you arrive in the morning and everything's locked off. The computers are all shut down, and there's all kind of silent whispering going on, and then everybody says there's a special meeting at 10 o'clock, and then you all know that something nasty is about to happen. Okay, so this was like obviously very unsettling. So what did you do?
Yeah, at that point, we had to plan what we need to do. We had a young child, a baby. Thinking back, I would have made some of my decisions different. But at the time, what I did was, in my panic, I sent my wife and my kid back to India because I was thinking, without a job, without salary, surviving in US would be tough. So I sent them back to India so that she can go stay in India for some time while I find a job. And I vacated my apartment, moved all my stuff to the friends' houses around us. And then some of the colleagues whom we are working, they were bachelors and they used to stay in an apartment. So I went and started staying with them. And the next few months at least was when I started looking out for a job. It's like talking to different vendors, talking to different companies, making my resume, applying, things like that.
Okay. So, it sounds like you're doing a lot of critically needed things. I'm not sure I would have been so quick to send my wife back, but I can understand your logic there. Okay, so you started looking for work. Now, did you have a visa that could be transferred at that time or not?
Yes, I was on a H-1B visa, so which means that I need to find another employer in order for me to continue working here, and they can do my paperwork again and then get my H1 transfer. So that was a possibility, and that's why I was looking for a job so that I can get into something long term. That was my thinking. Like, I need to get into something long term so that I can take care of my family, maybe settle down in a right way, because the kid will eventually grow up and we need to get to a place where we can send our daughter to school and things like that.
So more stability. All right. So what were you praying at this time? How were you praying?
My kind of job, being a consulting job, my opportunities will be all around US. Lord, please provide me with a job according to your will. And I was like specifically praying, Lord, if you want me to take to a place, it can be any place in the US. I'm ready to go.
Right.
And just provide me with a job in your will. And I don't have any reservations. I just want to listen to you. and I just want to go by your will.
Wow. So that sounds great. It sounds like you're doing really well. Okay, well, what happens next?
Yeah, I mean, everything was going well. I started getting some calls, and locally also I got some calls to interview, and I was doing that. And one fine morning, around 6 o'clock in the morning, being in the West Coast, I got a call from the East Coast, and there was a recruiter who called me and said, "Yeah, we have an opportunity for you in IBM Research Center in Hawthorne, New York, a little upstate of New York City." And then he said that it's a 1-year project and the pay is really good. And then, are you interested in taking the interview? And I said, yeah, I will be glad to take the interview. And I started preparing for the interview. There was an initial call, which went really well. The manager who talked to me was very polite, and the conversation went very well. And I started getting excited about the job. Still, there were a couple more interviews had to happen before I could get the job. And I was still praying. Till that point, like I said, my prayer was, Lord, take me whichever place you want, whichever company. I'm ready to go anywhere you want. I just want to do your will. Please keep me in your will. That was my prayer till that point. But when this call came from IBM, I started to change my prayer a little bit. And I said, Lord, you know that IBM is a very good company, and they have a long-term project for me. I can settle down. I can take care of my family. And in a way, I was trying to argue with God and trying to give God some reasons as to why God has to give me that job. So, in other words, I was my prayer moved away from, Lord, let this be according to your will, rather than it became, Lord, let it be according to my reasons.
So, okay, so this is pretty familiar, right? Lots of people go through this kind of situation, whether it be, like buying a house or, when they're selecting a mate or something, that, oh, I really like this girl. I'm sure, Lord, make her the one for me, or something along those lines. So, most people, I think, can understand that sort of enthusiasm. You get excited about the opportunity. But did you feel uneasy at that time, or did you still feel like, oh, no, this is fine, you're doing fine?
Yeah, I mean, I was not feeling uneasy at the time. I actually started neglecting some of the local interviews at the time because I got so excited with this job at IBM that I wanted somehow God to make that happen. It was kind of like, Lord, this is the best thing. Lord, this is the best place for me. I want you to make things happen so that I can be happy about my situation. And
Right.
That is how I started arguing with God and talking to Him, and that was my position at that point.
Okay. All right. So what happened? Well, to find out, you'll have to tune in next time and see how God reacts to Suresh running ahead with what he thinks God should be doing. Thanks for listening. Join us again on the next podcast.
Fill with thy spirit, till all shall see Christ only,